Welcome to the 700 Club. The coach has a right to pray. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of a high school coach who was fired for praying after football games.
The ruling has even greater implications for religious liberty. It has ended the so-called lemon test. Caitlin Burke explains.
Both sides of Kennedy versus Bremerton School District argued their case all comes down to the First Amendment. In the end, the majority ruling in favor of individual freedom over government censorship.
The First Amendment means that people of faith can be people of faith. They don't need to choose between the job that they love and their faith to stay employed.
In 2015, the Bremerton School District in Washington State fired Coach Joseph Kennedy for praying on the 50-yard line after football games. Their concern? That allowing those prayers to go on would come across as a state endorsement of his religion. Kennedy's lawyers pointed to both the free exercise and free speech clauses of the Constitution to protect the coach's right to pray. The High Court agreed. Justice Neil Gorsuch, writing for the majority, said, quote, "Respect for religious expressions is indispensable to life in a free and diverse republic, whether those expressions take place in a sanctuary or on a field, and whether they manifest through the spoken word or a bowed head."
What I think we saw Justice Gorsuch say so well today is that you cannot use, school districts cannot use the Establishment Clause to censor the free exercise clause, as they've done so many times, too many times in the last many years now.
In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor accused the court of eroding religious liberty for all by elevating the religious rights of a school official over those of his students. Monday's ruling also had major implications on the so-called lemon test. For decades in religious liberty cases, the Supreme Court referred to a ruling from 1971, Lemon versus Kurtzman, as a framework for dealing with separation of church and state under the First Amendment. Now, experts say that complicated legal standard has essentially been eliminated, meaning courts will no longer necessarily favor secular interests over religious ones.
I think it's very clear that the lemon test is now no longer good law, that instead we're going to look at the unique facts and history, the circumstances that has welcomed religion in the public square throughout our country's history.
Coach Kennedy told CBN News his faith has sustained him through a long legal battle. Now he's ready to get back out on the field.
My faith has grown so much, not just in God and the closeness of that, but the faith through my family. We've become a lot tighter as a family as Christians, and also everybody in the nation. It's just great to see how God works in these ways.
4 decisions remain to be announced by the High Court this term, including Biden versus Texas, an immigration case which addresses the Remain in Mexico policy. As of now, Wednesday is the last decision day on the calendar. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Well, this is a wonderful day for religious freedom, for the free exercise of our faith in the public square, in our schools, in the halls of government. We get the right to pray. It's a right that should have been there all along, but the Supreme Court got involved. What they did is they put too much emphasis on the Establishment Clause and used that to literally drive prayer away from the public square. The problem in our culture today is many people believe that prayer is somehow unconstitutional, and unless you're doing it in a church or you're doing it in your own home, you don't have a right to pray. But this now firmly establishes that we all have a right to pray, and we have a right to pray anywhere. That is the free exercise of our religion. Congress shall pass no law, and I'll add to that, the Supreme Court shouldn't be passing any laws either, that would restrict the right of Americans to practice their religion. This is wonderful, and it's high time for the lemon test to go away. Justice Scalia wrote famously that it was like a ghoul in a horror movie that kept coming back to life. And it was all about this test about excessive entanglement of government and religion, and was it an implied endorsement, and all of these other things. Now, the ramifications of this is, if you remember, all those 10 Commandment monuments and all the crosses that were ordered taken down because of excessive entanglement. Well, now there's a whole new day and a whole new view from the Supreme Court, and that will all come back again, like a ghoul in a horror movie. Well, in other news, a horrible tragedy in Texas. 46 migrants were found dead in a tractor trailer. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Gordon. And those migrants were discovered after being abandoned in a tractor trailer on a remote San Antonio back road. City authorities say the bodies were packed together in the trailer, some of them children. 16 people were still alive, but suffering from heat exhaustion with temperatures topping 100 degrees.
Signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer, but there was no visible working AC unit on that rig.
Officials said 3 people are in custody, and the situation is now a federal investigation. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott tweeted the following: "These deaths are on President Biden. They are a result of his deadly open border policies." Well, here in Washington, politicians from both parties are proposing ideas about how to deal with abortion and pregnant women after Friday's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. Brody Carter has the story.
Protesters are going toe-to-toe nationwide.
We won't go back! We won't go back!
In Washington, Democrats vow to fight the Supreme Court's ruling, while Republicans look to the future of an America without a federal law allowing abortion.
Because the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade, correcting that flawed decision, finally allows states and Congress to protect life in ways that we never were able to for the last 50 years.
Now Congress is playing a game of tug-of-war as Democrats focus on passing the Women's Health Protection Act, which would legislate legal abortion nationwide. The next pro-life piece of legislation could be the Providing for Life Act, sponsored by Florida Senator Marco Rubio. If passed, it would pave the way for tax exemptions and health care options for expecting mothers and their unborn babies. Meanwhile, Democrats are using the SCOTUS ruling as a rally cry for the midterms, vowing to protect abortion rights where they can by expanding access to the day-after pill, providing abortion education, and even exploring options to open abortion clinics on federal lands in states restricting abortion.
We have many ideas. We have some ideas coming from Senator Warren, signed a letter along with 25 other Democratic senators asking President Biden to explore opening health care clinics on federal lands in red states in order to help people access the health care and abortion services that they need. We also must, and President Biden did indicate that he was going to start looking into expanding abortion access via the pill, as well as educational efforts.
But while Democrats have many ideas, the question for them remains the same as always in Washington. Will they have enough votes to pass their plans? Brody Carter, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Brody. Well, turning to Ukraine, where rescuers searched through the rubble of a shopping mall today, looking for more victims of a Russian missile strike Monday that killed at least 18 people and wounded dozens more. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called it one of the most daring terrorist attacks in European history. He said more than 1,000 afternoon shoppers and workers were inside the mall at the time. Here at home, senators from both parties increasingly are frustrated over the Biden administration's delay in delivering global food aid funding that was included in the Ukraine bill passed by Congress earlier this spring. Politico reports the lawmakers and their staffs have got no explanation for why the money hasn't been distributed. Congress passed the $40 billion emergency aid measure in early May to help multiple countries hurt by rising prices because of the Russian invasion. And Congress approved billions more for food assistance for Ukraine itself. Well, CBN's Operation Blessing has been providing relief for refugees who fled from the devastation of the war in Ukraine. And one woman who's received help from Operation Blessing is now using it to help others as well.
Before the war in Ukraine, Marina was active at her church. Her family stayed busy meeting the needs of their community in many ways.
There were 4 villages where we preached God's word. We had a big kids ministry too.
When the war started, Marina and her family were quick to help people in their community while facing danger themselves.
My parents delivered humanitarian aid to people. We sat in the cold basement and listened to the shooting outside. We didn't have gas, light, or water for about 2 months.
After listening to almost constant gunfire and explosions, Marina decided to flee her home for the safety of her family.
It was difficult to get here with the children, not just physically, but mentally as well. After we sat for weeks under bombardment, where they were shooting and the children were crying constantly, we were all exhausted in every way before our journey even began.
Thanks to the support of Operation Blessing donors, we gave Marina boxes filled with groceries. With this food, Marina fed her own family and even helped other displaced victims who didn't have access to kitchens.
When they brought us groceries today, we had very big eyes. We were shocked and filled with happiness and joy. All this time I was depressed and felt so useless to anyone. When you helped us, I could help others again. I was very happy. And I understood that God hears everything and knows everything.
Operation Blessing donors are providing victims of war food and the very important gift of hope.
I sat in a cold basement for weeks. My baby cried every day. After our meeting yesterday, I flew on wings of joy. I thank God for you, for helping those who have helped others. I am very grateful.
That help reminding people that they are seen and not forgotten. Gordon?
And you can be a part of that help. How? Just join the 700 Club. A portion of every gift goes into the work of Operation Blessing. You're helping people all over the planet, but especially right now, you're helping the refugees from Ukraine have a hope, have a future. How much is it to join? It's just $20 a month. That's 65 cents a day. And you can be part of everything that we do. Give us a call, 1-800-700-7000, and say, I want to join the 700 Club.